Hi everybody, this is Dr. Hamid with your Math 120 class. Today we will talk about quadratic equations and which is section 6.5. Now in this section, our main goal is to solve, learn and understand quadratic equations. Okay, so we'll start by looking at where this quadratic equation comes from. We will multiply binomials using the FOIL method. Okay, and this will result in a quadratic equation. We will also go the other way around. We will factor a given quadratic equation to get binomials. Okay, and we will solve equations by factoring. We will also solve quadratic equations using quadratic formula. Okay, so these are our main goals in this lecture. So let's look at how to multiply two binomials using a FOIL method. So there are two things here. First of all, binomial, okay, and then FOIL method. So let's look at the binomials. A binomial is an algebraic expression which contains two terms, okay, in which each exponent that appears on the variable is a whole number, no fractions. Okay, and examples of a binomial are x plus 3, so two terms here, x plus 4, two terms there, 3x plus 4, two terms again, 5x minus 3, two terms. So these are all examples, and if I want to put it in a general form, I can write it as ax plus b or cx plus d, where a, b and c and d are any real numbers there. So this is called a binomial. Any one of them is called a binomial. Now let's look at the second terminology we introduced, FOIL method. I am 99.9% sure you have seen this and you are expert on this one. You know more than me on this FOIL method. This method is used to multiply two binomials, okay, which we and we use FOIL method for that. Okay, and when we are done with the multiplication, after cleanup, we result in a quadratic equation. So the FOIL method works like this one here. We have ax plus b and multiplied by cx plus d here. Okay, so we have so it turns into FOIL. So FOIL. So F stands for the product of the first terms. Okay, so first term ax times the first term cx. So that is stands for F here. Then we move on to product of outside terms for this, represented by O here. So outside terms are, this is the outside term ax and this is the outside term d. So ax times d is our O here. And then inside terms, and it is represented by I here. Inside term is this one and this one, b times cx. So that's the product of inside terms here. And only one thing remains, which is the L, that is the last terms. Okay, so the last here, last is b, here last is d. So b times d is our last term. Okay, so this is called a FOIL method for multiplying two binomials. Let's look at an example here. Suppose you want to multiply x plus 3 with x plus 4 here. We have, we will use the FOIL method. So f first terms, the first term means x times x, that gives us x squared. Outsides, so outsider is x and 4, multiply these two and we get 4x. I, the inside terms, which is 3 and x, multiply those two and you get 3x. Last terms, multiply 3 and 4, that gives you 12 there. Okay, so put things together, this product is equal to all of these. Okay, so when you do that, you have x plus 3 times x plus 4 equals to x squared plus 4x plus 3x equals to 12. We can combine these 4x and 3x, that will give us 7x there. So this is our quadratic equation, our quadratic expression here. So we went from each linear factor to a quadratic one. So x squared plus 7x plus 12, and we got it after combining these two terms there. Okay, that's how you use a FOIL method. I'm not going to spend that much time on this one. As I said earlier, I'm sure you know this and you're good at it. Okay, now let's move on. Factoring trinomial. Okay, so going back, this is, if the thing has two terms in it, it's a binomial. Since this one has three terms in it, this is called trinomial. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about here. Factoring trinomial whose leading coefficient is 1. So again, let's start with the trinomial. A simplified algebraic expression that contains three terms, okay, in which all the variables have whole numbers is called a trinomial. Okay, so try 3. So as I told you earlier, when we use FOIL method to multiply two binomials, we end up with a trinomial. Okay, and I'm going back to the previous example, we had two binomials. When you multiplied it, we got a trinomial here. So each one of them has two terms, and this one has three terms in it. Okay, and factoring an algebraic expression containing the sum or difference of terms means finding an equivalent expression that is the product. Okay, so sort of, if you want to factor a trinomial x squared plus bx plus c, okay, so we just learned that a FOIL method will, we will go from a binomial product to a trinomial here. Okay, and the reverse process is called factoring. So if you have two binomials and you multiply them, you will get a quadratic or a trinomial here. And now if you factor this, going back to these two products here, that is called factoring, and it is very important. Okay, you will need this to solve quadratic equations and higher order equations. So the basic idea, the main idea behind factoring or going backwards to the reverse process of FOIL is this one here. So suppose a quadratic equation is given to you, x squared plus bx plus c, okay, and we want to convert it into two factors. Each one of the first term will be x on both of them, and then we will have plus or minus depending upon this sign. Since this has I have plus here, so it has to be plus, and these two will be some numbers. Okay, so these two will be some numbers here. Again, note that b here is the sum of those two numbers here, which we will have here. Okay, c is the product of the two numbers, which we will have there. Okay, so this c is the product of these two numbers. So the bottom line here is that when we are factoring, we will be looking for two numbers such that their product is c and their sum is b. Their product is this c and their sum is this b here. Okay, that's our goal here. Things always become clear with the example. So let's look at one. Suppose you want to factor x squared plus 6x plus 8 here. Okay, so there are a few steps involved here. The first step is, first write down the terms which you want to write down two terms which when multiplied gives the first thing here. Okay, so first we have x squared. The only possible multiplication which will produce x squared is x times x. Okay, so put x here, put x here. Now this is just an empty space which we have to fill with the proper factorization. Since all the signs are plus here, so there's no point, we can put plus here, we have to have plus there. Okay, now next step is we need two numbers such that their sum is 6 and their product is 8. This is 6 here, that has to be the sum of those two numbers which come here. Okay, and whatever comes here, their product has to be 8 here. Okay, so we'll start with 8. Let's list all the factors of the constant term plus 8 here. Okay, so anything which when we multiply give us 8, let's write it down here. So if you do that, the only possibilities are 8 times 1, that will give us plus 8. 4 times 2 will give us plus 8. Minus 1 times minus 8 will give us 8. Minus 4 times minus 2 will give us 8 as well. Okay, I only kept those which will produce plus 8. Now there are few, for example, if you put minus here, it will produce minus 8. I have ignored that because we only need the product to be plus 8 here. Now the next step is, among these pairs, we have 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, pick that one. Okay, pick the correct pair which will give us this sum. Sum has to be plus 6, which is the middle term here, the coefficient of the middle term. So pick the correct pair which gives sum equals to 6. So that is this one here. This will give us 9. This will give us minus 9. This will give us minus 6. We want plus 6. So when we add these two, it will give us plus 6. So these are our two numbers which will go here. So we'll have 4 here, 2 here. Okay. So our required numbers are plus 4 and plus 2. So put it into this one. So we fill in the blanks there. our required factorization are x squared plus 6x plus 8 equal x plus 4 and x plus 2. You should always check it, okay, confirm it. How will you confirm it? FOIL it, okay, multiply it out, and you should get exactly what you have on this side. If you don't, that means we messed up somewhere. There's a mistake somewhere, okay? Okay, now remember that the example I did here, this coefficient is 1 here. The coefficient of the leading order term, x square, is 1, okay? So finding factors when the leading coefficient is not 1, other than 1, it is little complicated, okay? So if you have ax square plus bx plus c and a is equal to 1, we just did that. That's relatively easy, okay? But if you have a not equal to 1, it is, 1/2 or 4 or any other number bigger than 1, let's say, or less than 1, then things are little complicated. Not that complicated, little complicated, okay? So you have to do a little bit of extra work. So let's look at example. Here, suppose we want to factor this equation here. We have 3x squared minus 20x plus 28. So the leading coefficient is 3 here, okay? So our first step is, again, we want to find two terms such that their product produces this one here, 3x squared. And the only options is 3x times x or x times 3x, doesn't matter, okay? So put it right like that. We want to factor this, so we want two binomials. So first one is 3x, second one has to be x, and this is this empty space we have to fill after some work, okay? We have to fill such that, their sum, whatever we fill here, their sum has to be minus 20, okay, and their product has to be 3 times 28, okay? So let's start by listing all pairs of 28, okay? Since the product has to be plus and the sum has to be minus, so we only need to focus on the negative numbers here, negative factors here, okay? So the possible factors of 28 are minus 28 and minus 1, minus 14 and minus 2, minus 4 and minus 7, okay? Let's move on to the next step. That is, let's write out some possible factors using these numbers here, okay? And remember, we want to pick the correct one which produces the middle term, which is equal to minus 20x. So this is what we are trying to factor. This we already have, and this is what we are trying to fill out the space here, okay? So first factor we write is 3x minus 1 and minus 28, okay, based on this one. Or we can also have 3x minus 28 or x minus 1 based upon this factorization here. Now based upon this factorization, we can have 3x minus 2, x minus 14, or 3x minus 14, x minus 2, okay? And based upon this factorization, we can have 3x minus 4 and x minus 7, and 3x minus 7, x minus 4. Now, these are all, possibilities. Only one of them is correct, okay? So to pick the correct one, we must choose such that sum of the outside, okay, this one, and inside, this one, okay? Sum of the product of the outside and inside gives us minus 20x, okay? So outside is this one times this one, which is minus 84x, okay? Sum of product of inside is minus 1 times x is minus x. It gives us minus 85x. But what we need minus 20x, not minus. So this one is wrong, definitely. This one is also wrong. That gives us minus 21. This one is also wrong. That gives us minus 44. How about this one? Minus 20x. That's what we want. So this is our correct factorization. Okay. So we need our correct factorization is minus 3x minus 14 x minus 2. And you should always confirm it, as I told you earlier. Multiply it out and you should get this here. Okay. So this is all wrong. This is all wrong. So this is your correct factorization. So our required factorizations are 3x squared minus 20x plus 28 equals to 3x minus 14 times x minus 2. Okay. And you should always, as I said, verify it using a FOIL method. If you verify it, you should get exactly what we started with. Okay. Okay. Now let's use this strategy which we just learned to solve quadratic equations. Okay. A quadratic equation, I've been saying this, quadratic equation earlier, but I never defined it. So it's an equation which has, second degree. Its highest degree, highest power of the variable is 2. Okay, so that's called a quadratic equation. A, B, C are numbers. So this is the equation in a standard form. All the terms on one side and 0 on the other side. Okay, so this is a quadratic equation. A, B, and C are numbers here. Okay, and A has to be non-zero. The zero product principle, okay, which is used to solve this equation is, we will factor this out. Okay, and suppose we get two factors and the product of those two factors will be equal to 0, means any of them can be equal to 0. Either A is 0 or B is equal to 0. Okay, and we will use this zero product principle. If the product of two factors is 0, then one or both our factors must have a value of 0. Okay, in simple layman terms, the product of two things is only 0 when one of them is 0. Okay, so otherwise it can never be 0. These are the steps which we will use when we will solve quadratic equation by factoring. Okay, first of all, a quadratic equation will be given to you. You want to make sure you have it in a standard form, all the terms on one side and 0 on the other side. Okay, if it's not that way, make sure you have it before you move on. And then factor, using the methods we learned earlier. If it is, in the leading coefficient is 1, use the simpler method. If leading coefficient is other than 1, use the example I did earlier. Okay, and then apply zero product principle by setting each factor equal to 0. So when we factor a quadratic equation, we get a product of two factors. Set each one of them equal to 0, and then solve each factor for the variable and check the solution if you got it correct. Okay, let's look at this example here. Solving a quadratic equation by factoring. Suppose this is the equation given to you, x squared minus 2x equals to 35. First of all, it is not in the standard form. It's a quadratic equation. Okay, move this 35 over here. Okay, now we want to factor this. Okay, our factorization is such that we want to find two numbers such that their product is minus 35 and their sum is minus 2, and those are minus 7 and plus 5. Okay, so now set each of them equal to 0. So x minus 7 equal to 0 or x plus 5 equal to 0. This will give us 7, this will give us minus 5. These are our solutions. Okay, this one here, I skipped a little step here. You should go back and look how I did it. I skipped it on purpose. Now, this is an easy way of solving quadratic equations. This is called solving a quadratic equation using quadratic formula. Again, if you have this equation, ax squared plus bx plus c, we can find a solution in a mechanical way. Mechanical way, you do this, this will happen. You do this, this will happen. All we need is the values of a, b, and c, and this formula here. Okay, so you put the b right there, b right there, a right there, c right there, and divide it by 2a. Okay, so this will produce two values, and that will be our solution of the quadratic equation. Easiest thing on the earth. Okay, no thinking involved. As I said, just you have to be awake, and you should know your formula, and you should know your ABC, and your solutions will just pop out. Okay, let's apply the quadratic formula on this equation. Already in a standard form, a, b, and c. Put it down here. So a is 2, b is 9, c is minus 5. Okay, recall your formula. Formula is minus b plus minus b square minus 4ac divided by 2a. Plug the values of a, b, and c right there. Okay, I hope you know how to do this, numbering here, number calculations here. 9 square is 81 minus 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times minus 5 is plus 40. So work it out, and this is what you get. Simplified further, 121 is a complete square of 11. So we can pull it out. Square root is gone. So our two solutions are minus 9 plus 11 over 4 or minus 9 minus 11 over 4. If you simplify it further, you get one solution as 2 over 4 or 1 over 2. Second solution we get minus 20 over 4 or minus 5. These are our two solutions. Okay, as I said, a systematic way of arriving at a solution. Let's look at another one. Okay, I made it up so that, to explain few things here. You see that the first thing we need to do here is put it in a standard form. Okay, do not pick A, B, C from here, you will get a wrong answer. So first move all the terms to the right. Okay, so 4x becomes minus 4x, 1 becomes minus 1. Pick A, B, and C. Okay, and then we will have, this is our formula. Plug A, B, C into this formula, and you have a minus from the formula, and B has minus in it, so that becomes 4, and then minus 4 square becomes 16, and then minus 4 AC gives you minus 2 times 4 times minus 1, which is minus 8. We arrive at 4 plus minus square root of 24 over 4. 24 is not complete square of anything. Okay, if it was 25 we will be in luck, but since it's 24 we can do it 6 times 4 here. Okay, and then pull 4 out, which becomes 2 here. Okay, so these are our final solutions. Okay, so x equals to 2 plus square root of 6 over 2, or x equals to 2 minus square root of 2 over 2. Okay, these are our final solutions using the quadratic formula. Thank you very much. Please try the homework problems assigned to you. Make sure you understand the material. If you don't, let me know. I will explain. Thank you. Bye-bye.